English teacher, part 103. State objectives and provide set. You should begin a skill lesson by explaining the lesson objectives, establishing a learning set. For a skill lesson, set may often include providing an overview of what your students will accomplish. It is essential at this stage to ensure that your students understand clearly why it is important to each of them to meet the skill objectives. Review and check the previous day's work. Plan a daily review of the material that your students will need to retain for the subsequent learning. The processes of daily review and checking assignments emphasize the connection between the lessons. They also ensure that students will retain prerequisite knowledge and skills applicable to new lessons and see new materials as extensions of the content they have already mastered. Present new material in small steps. Spend enough time in presenting your new material and providing guided practice to ensure that your students will grasp the main points. To promote understanding, make the purpose of the skill procedures clear, providing step-by-step direction and opportunities to practice them. Giving direction is discussed in detail in our last tutorial. Start with generous number of clear, simple examples and demonstrations. Move gradually to more complex ones. Show your students that you believe it is important for all of them to understand the information and directions you are providing. Use appropriate teaching strategies. Appropriate teaching strategies include individualizing teaching and learning procedures, providing guidance and positive reinforcement, encouraging active learner participation, promoting learner success, giving feedback, and facilitating skills transfer. Skillful, carefully planned modeling and demonstrations are important since these practices encourage imitation. When you model and demonstrate a skill, make sure that your performance is accurate and explain exactly what you are doing and why. Ensure that all your students can see your actions and hear your explanations. Discussing the skills and their uses helps learner later performance. Provide active practice. Provide sufficient world observable active practice when students are learning a new skill. Promotes successful learning. Indeed, some skills can be learned only through participation and practice. While it is possible for students to participate covertly or unobservably in skill learning, for example, by silently thinking through the steps of solving an algebra problem as you demonstrate, they are far more likely to lose their train of the thought or become bold or unobservant when their participation is not active. Start by having your students practice a skill with you step by step as you demonstrate. In the early stages of skill learning, practice should focus on correct techniques rather than on obtaining correct result. Observe learners carefully to ensure that they are performing skills correctly, since it is important for them not to practice incorrect procedures that they might later have to unlearn. Decide on the nature and the quantity of the further skill practice, which should lead as soon as possible to actual use. It should also emphasize the process and provide a high rate of success, whereas simple or isolated behaviors may require little practice Practice becomes more important as learning becomes more complex. Prolonged practice is needed, for instance, to polish skills such as touch keyboarding, reading, writing, and driving.